Hi, I'm John. I'm 28 this year, and I'm an account manager in a digital media marketing firm.
My name is Winston. I'm 24 years old this year, and I'm in the final year of my studies.
I'm Kenneth. I'm 45, and I work in the garage.
I own a 1998 BMW E46. I have owned this car for about 8 to 9 months. This E46 is a total fun car to drive. I think I like sharing how, even in this day and age, you can compete with any car on the road out there. It's total joy, however short the drive is. To work, from work, around town, I really enjoy it. I think it's a car that has a lot more than just an engine and 4 wheels.
I drive a 1982 Austin Mini, and I have made it into a replica of a 1967 Austin Cooper S. I have owned this car for 1 year and 2 months. It has been both challenging and satisfactory at the same time. So I have had a lot of good memories with this car, and even though I faced certain problems, such as issues with the engine and breaking down at certain periods of time, but I found it a very rewarding experience in fixing this car and learning to understand the mechanics of how an old car works.
This is a 1967 Volkswagen Beetle. I've owned this Volkswagen for 20 years now. I've always liked classic cars. I'm very drawn to their design, the way they work, and how they function.
I've always loved things that were kind of old, kind of classic. I loved buying up old motorbikes back in the day, restoring them, making them new again. They could be 30, 40 years old, but they would run beautifully, and I think that translated into this car. It translated into loving classic cars the way they were, and that's kind of how my hobby grew from motorbikes to where I am now.
I have interest in everything vintage. In fact, I collect vintage furniture and vintage radios, so buying a classic car was just natural to me.
So I've actually liked Mini Coopers for a very long time. However, I did not set around to learning my license because, to be frank, I have never felt any interest in new cars, and I didn't think it would be possible for me to own my dream car. However, one of my father's very good friends came to know that I had an interest in Minis, and it was my dream car. So he asked me if he would like to have it, as he had kept his Mini for a very long time and he wasn't really driving it. So of course I said yes, and he gave it to me as a present.
So I used to drive a 1991 AE101. It's a Toyota Corolla. Fun drive, very brainless drive, also manual, but not much of a wrestle in it. And I think a huge thing that matters to me is family. What car am I putting my family in? And it just hit me one day that the car was mostly plastic. You won't really survive a crash in that car. Not many airbags in there, so it was a bit hypocritical, I felt, talking about loving family and putting them in that kind of car, as much as it was a beautiful classic to own. So I think at that time, I was looking for a car that you don't see very much. Definitely needed to be manual. I needed to pack a punch. And at the time when I was looking, when I found it, it was at the right price. It was a total joy to drive. In the very first test drive, I already decided to buy it. So at that time, it was kind of hard to beat because it's practical, it's pretty economical, it's also pretty rare, and not a lot of people can control what it is. So it was pretty obvious a choice to make when I first chose this car.
I was looking for something vintage, something simple to maintain. I just want to drive something different, something that makes me happy. And this immediately caught my eye. I purchased it through a friend who was into these things as well. I worked hard for it, and of course my father chipped in a little bit.
BMW back in the day, they designed the E30. That was a huge hit, meant for crossroad, meant for the track. People loved it, and they wanted to move on from something compact and small that was fast to something more practical for the family man, a sedan. and they designed the E36, so that was a lot larger, that could contain a family of 5 easily. Also very powerful, very nimble. But when you come to the late 90s, BMW wanted something that was a lot more timeless in design, a lot more modern, futuristic. This car has a lot of tech in there that has been around for ages, and therefore the E46 just, they kind of put everything good in the E30, E36 and put it into the E46. And that's why you have a car with a classic design, pretty timeless, but it really still packs a punch today and still practical, still the family man's choice today.
The idea for the Volkswagen Beetle was conceived in the 1930s.
In 1932, the National Socialist Party came to power in Germany. The soon-to-be Chancellor, Adolf Hitler, was a keen car enthusiast, and his attention soon focused on a proposal for a small, cheap car, a Volksauto.
It was produced for World War II in the 1940s, and it became a full production car in the 1950s.
It was the brainchild of Ferdinand Porsche, a brilliant designer who designed some of the finest, fastest and most luxurious cars in the world.
It's an early model of Volkswagen, so it has a very different styling, including the dash, the engine and the bumpers.
The Mini was designed in 1956 by Sir Alex Isigoni, and he designed this car in 1956 to combat the 1956 fuel crisis in the Suez Canal, where there was not enough oil to go around for petrol cars. So this man was asked to design a car which could fit into a space of about 2 by 3 meters, and he designed this car for the common man to sit in.
The easiest way to win a bet of this sort is to make a car that is so unusual compared with all the other cars around it that it automatically becomes a status symbol.
So back then they called it the Austin 7 and Morris Cooper. So it was produced in 1959, and they produced the series Mark I from 1959 to 1965. So from 1965 onwards, they changed it to Mark II and Mark III, and they have produced all the way until Mark VI, which are the various series. Although all these cars look very identical, they actually have certain features which are different from the very first model all the way up to the later models. So the model here which I own is a 1982 Mark IV Mini. It came with 12-inch wheels originally, as with all newer Minis. Later on, I converted it to resemble a 1960s Austin Cooper S-Type. And I've also converted the disc brakes from 8.4 inches to 7.4. I've also replaced the tires to be 10-inch wheels, and all in all, it resembles a 1967 Austin Cooper S.
You can't really tell how it drives from its looks. The lines are typical, to me, 80s, 90s lines, very nice, very sharp. Of course, internally it's beautiful leather from something very standard back in the 90s, BMW cars. You've got a console that's very good looking, very clean. And of course, the way it drives, it really packs a punch. It's like a wrestling match all the time. Every gear, every corner, even on the straights. And when you combine these two things, it's kind of hard to beat. And that's what I really love about this car.
I just like how it looks, the way the bumpers are, the way the dash is designed, and how it's so small but it can still fit 4 people. Very simple to operate, very simple to repair, and it's air-cooled.
I like how this vehicle resembles a 1967 Austin Cooper S. To me, this vehicle is an important part of the motoring history in Singapore, and I have felt a very urgent need to preserve these old vehicles. This Mini was actually originally a car owned by very much the common man on the streets.
Having grown up understanding how things were made back in the day, every component had thought put into it, every part was there for a reason, especially the Germans when they built cars. And I think as much as when it came to the point in time when I wanted to own a car, I could have gone for a more modern Vezel, something hybrid, something that could save me a lot of money. But I felt that at this age, where I didn't really have too much commitment. I should try to own a classic car, to manage it, to really enjoy it. I mean, for the stories that I tell my kids when the day comes, but classics was something very natural to me, something I chose, something that I wanted to be part of, and it's been nothing but a joy ever since.
It may not have all the modern conveniences. It's been fun. I get a lot of attention, especially from kids driving down the road.
It's kind of majority joyful, but you do have your moments where suddenly lights don't work, suddenly the car doesn't start. It does have a bit of its own charisma, a bit of its own temperament that you've got to manage. Just preempting what could happen, then the car always, it's always reliable, always very practical, always doing what you want it to do.
Owning a classic has been a very challenging yet satisfying experience for me. So for myself, I had many good memories with this car. I like how retro and cute it looks. Every time I go out, it puts a smile on my face, and it also puts a smile on other people's faces on the streets. So even though I have encountered some setbacks, such as breaking down at weird places like the High Court and Haji Lane, I have actually managed to get around these problems. Because my dad actually owns a car garage, I'm very lucky to have him to guide me.
I think many classic car owners, their cars are highly valuable to them, like family. I value the car as much as what it can give to me. As long as it stays a safe drive, an enjoyable drive, my family, friends enjoy it, I will value it.
This car is very special as it was the very first car I've owned, and from not being a driver at all, I took my license so that I could drive it, as it was a gift from my father's good friend. And apart from the memories with my father, I have also taken many of my good friends out with this car. I have enjoyed every single one of my rides with them, and these memories will remain with me for a very long time.
I've owned this car for so long, it's almost like a sibling to me. I've grown really attached to this car, so I can't put a value on it. I think the best memories come from the club meets that we have, the events that I've attended, and the people that I've met along the way who are extremely helpful.
Some good memories I've had with my car includes my involvement with the Mini Enthusiast Club Singapore. So I joined them recently, and they have been very helpful in helping me with questions or issues I face with taking care of a classic car. I actually attended one of their meetings during the anniversary celebrations last year, and during the celebrations I was able to view other Minis from different eras from mine, and I found it an eye-opener, and I was more inspired to take care and preserve my car even more. When I was a young boy, my father was in the car business, and he actually gave me a book by the Mini Enthusiast Club Singapore. So inside this book, there were many pictures of Minis in Singapore, and they even had all the members' names in it, along with photos, as well as descriptions of various excursions they've had driving up to Malaysia. So this book was actually what kickstarted my interest in Minis, and I still have it today.
I have godparents, and I have very fond memories of my godfather driving me in a British Racing Green E46 when I was a little fat kid. I think I was at the time 9 or 10, and he drove me up all the way to Malacca, KL in it. And it was a total joy. I remember just feeling safe, feeling very nice in it. The guy I bought this car from, he had put the car into gear 1 as opposed to reverse. And because it's a very powerful car, a little tap of the accelerator, he ended up banging into a lorry. So it's just a very nice reminder that when you drive a classic car, you need to understand it first before you try to control it. So that's kind of why I leave it there, although it's very quick to fix, but it's fine. It's a nice fun story.
License plate was randomly assigned to me. I later discovered that the numbers 5926 are actually special because they represent the very first day when the Austin Mini was released to the public on the 26th of August 1959.
Back in the day, I will recall that classic cars are normally owned by old men who, it could be a family heirloom, it could be something that they are affording to do in their retirement years, something that they are just doing for fun. But over the years, I've seen how the classic car industry has got more people like myself, not too young, but we're choosing classic cars over something overly practical.
So after I got to own this Mini, I discovered there was a classic community scene in Singapore, and there were owners of not just Minis, but other vehicles as well, such as Beetles and BMWs.
The classic car scene in Singapore is moving a lot more in the direction of a very holistic, familial environment where it's just friends, family that you find for yourself, that you drive together.
I wish to see more classic cars on the road. While some of the laws can be a little bit strict and a little bit prohibitive, but if you're really fond of something, I say just go for it.
I hope that more people would be able to enjoy classic cars in Singapore and to be able to experience the pride and joy of owning one.
I would like to ask for more classic enthusiasts to bring their cars out more often.
My hope is that we really band together and stick together. I mean, as the COE years go by, more and more classic cars are going to go, but as friends, you know, the friendships you make, those last a lifetime, and I hope that whatever cars we drive, however we drive, whatever age group we are, that we really come together, young, old, doesn't matter. So I hope moving forward the classic car scene just becomes like family. Yeah.